60-second discourse. It was in the schoolhouse, in the early morning of Friday, the last day of Rajab, AH 546, that the Sheikh, may Allah be well pleased with him, said, "Affirm the oneness of the Lord of Truth, almighty and glorious as He, until not a single atom of the entire creation is left in your heart. You must see neither house nor homeland. The affirmation of unity, Tawhid, must kill it all. The whole remedy lies in affirming that the Lord of Truth, almighty and glorious as He, is one, and in shunning the serpent of this world. You must run away from this snake, Haya, until the charmer, Hawa, comes to you, for he will pull out its teeth and draw its poison. He will bring you close to him and teach you his skill. He will make the serpent submissive to you. It will be rendered harmless, so that you can handle it while it cannot bite you. When you love the Lord of Truth, almighty and glorious as He, and He loves you, He will keep you safe from the evil of this world, of carnal desires and lusts, the lower self, nafs, passions and devils, so you can receive your allotted shares without harm or confusion. O you who make claims without evidence, you so often pretend to affirm the divine unity, yet you are actually a polytheist, mushrik. Can you come out with me at night for a walk through frightening places, with me unarmed and you carrying a weapon? Then you will see who is scared, you or I. Who will come under the aegis of the hereafter, you or I? You have been trained in hypocrisy, nifaq, while I have been trained in faith, iman. O my people, you go chasing after this world to get it to give you things, while it runs after the saints, Aliyah, of Allah in order to give things to them. It stands in their presence with its head bowed low. You must strike your lower self, nafs, with the scimitar, samsama, of the affirmation of unity, while wearing the helmet of helpful guidance, tawfiq, and wielding the spear of sacred struggle, mujahada, the shield of pious devotion, taqwa, and the sword of certitude, yaqeen, so as to engage it sometimes in thrusting and at other times in cutting action. You must keep this up until it submits to you humbly and you become its rider, holding its reins in your hand as you travel with it over land and sea. At this stage your Lord, almighty and glorious as He, will point to you with pride. Then you will put in charge of those who remain stuck with their lower selves and have failed to escape from their control. When someone really knows his own self, man, arafa nafsahu, and has gained mastery over it, it becomes a beast of burden for him, a camel that does not disobey his command. There is nothing good in you until you really know your lower self, restrain it from indulgence and give it its proper due. Only then will it become tame in relation to the heart, while the heart becomes tame in relation to the innermost being, sir, and the innermost being becomes tame in relation to the Lord of Truth, almighty and glorious as He. You must not spare your lower selves the rod of dedicated struggle. Do not be deceived by their cunning wiles. Do not be deceived by their pretending to be asleep. You must not be taken in by the apparent sleep of the predatory animal, for he is only letting you think he is asleep, while waiting to pounce upon his prey. This lower self will make a show of tameness, submissiveness, humility and compliance with what is good, while secretly contradicting all this. Beware of what it may get up to later on. The people of the Lord are not really interested in ordinary creatures, but they go to the trouble of keeping an eye on them and spending time in their company, in order to instruct them in what they should and should not do. In their relationship to ordinary creatures, the people of the Lord may be likened to a set of people who wish to cross an ocean and reach a certain king. Some of them discovered a way through and made the passage, but when they had arrived in his presence, the king saw the rest of the people floundering about and almost drowning. They had not discovered the path which the first group had followed, so the king commanded those who had already reached him to go back to the others, in order to teach them the way by which they themselves had come. So they went and stood at the water's edge, and called out to them, "The way through is over here." Thus they set about giving them directions, and once they got close enough they took them by the hand. The basis of this can be found in his words, exalted as He. And he who believed said, "O my people, follow me, I will guide you to the way of right conduct." 40-38. The intelligent person amongst you will therefore not seek happiness in this world, nor in children, family, wealth, foodstuffs, articles of clothing, vehicles, or sexual opportunities. All of this is mere delusion. The believer, mu'min, finds happiness in the strength of his faith, iman, and certitude, yaqeen, and in the arrival of his heart at the door of the nearness of his Lord, Almighty and glorious is He. Surely the true kings of this world and the hereafter must be those who really know, Arafan, Allah, Almighty and glorious is He, and who work for His sake. O young man, when will your heart become pure and serene, and when will your innermost being become pure and serene? As long as you are guilty of associating partners with Allah, mushrik. How can you prosper, as long as you spend every night picking on someone or other to chase after, complain to and beg from? How can your heart become pure and serene, as long as it is so devoid of the affirmation of divine unity, tawhid, that it does not contain the slightest trace of it? The affirmation of divine unity is a radiant light, while the idolatrous worship, shirk, of creatures is a gloomy darkness. How can you prosper, as long as your heart is so devoid of pious devotion, taqwa, that it does not contain the slightest trace of it? You are screened off from the Creator by creatures, screened off by material means, asbab, from the originator, musabab, screened off by trust, tawakkul, in creatures and reliance on them. You are merely an unsubstantiated claim. No bouquet of sweet herbs is awarded on the strength of a claim with no proof. This business can only be accomplished in one of two ways. The first is by dedicated struggle and exertion, by enduring things that are very difficult and very exhausting. This is the more usual way, as experienced by the righteous, salihun. The second is a talent, mafiba, that requires no effort, a rare gift belonging to a few individuals only. To such an individual he grants direct knowledge, marifa, and love for him. He takes him from the midst of his family and his occupation, and manifests his power, kudra, within him. He takes him away from highway robbery, caught at Tariq, and promotes him to the hermit's cell, Sama'a. He expels all creatures from his heart and opens unto him the door of his nearness. He takes him away from fantasy so that he is satisfied with next to nothing. He nourishes him with understanding, wisdom and dignity, so he begins to learn a lesson from everything he sees, to learn a lesson from everything he hears, and to practice only that which brings him near to him. Now that he instructs others in right guidance, hadaya, providential care, anaya, and sufficiency, kifaya, they do not keep aloof from him. Applicable to him now are the words of Allah, Almighty and glorious is He, concerning Joseph, upon him and upon our own prophet be blessing and peace. So it was, that we might ward off from him evil and lewdness. He was one of our devoted servants. 12:24. He drives evil and lewdness away from him and puts helpful guidance, tawfiq, at his service. The lover, muhib, of Allah, Almighty and glorious is He, who has real knowledge, arif, will use every device to give instruction to his fellow creatures. He will sometimes use his words to instruct them, sometimes his actions, and at other times his spiritual influence, himma. He will instruct them in ways they are not aware of, as well as in ways of which they are conscious. O young man, you must attend to your personal condition as long as your faith, iman, is still weak. Do not mind the business of your family, of the man and woman next door, of the folk in your town and district. Once your faith has grown strong, however, you must make an impression on your family and your children, then on the people at large. Do not make them notice you until after you have armed yourself with the armor of pious devotion, taqwa, keeping the helmet of faith on the head of your heart, the sword of the affirmation of divine unity, tawhid, in your hand, and in your quiver the arrows of the answer to prayers, ijabat ad-dua. You must ride the steed of helpful guidance, tawfiq, and learn the tactics of attack and retreat, of cut and thrust, then bear down upon the enemies of the Lord of truth, Almighty and glorious is He. At this point you will receive support and assistance from all 6 directions, left and right, in front and behind, above and below. You will snatch your fellow creatures from the hands of Satan and carry them to the gate of the Lord of truth, Almighty and glorious is He. You will instruct them in the work of the people of the garden, of paradise, and warn them against doing the work of the people of the fire, of hell. How could it be otherwise, when you have experienced Arafta, the garden and the fire, and really know their works? When someone has attained to this station, Makam, the veils will be removed from the eye of his heart. Whether he looks to right or left, in front or behind, above or below, his gaze will pierce through and nothing will block his vision. He will lift up the head of his heart and see the throne, Arsh, and the heavens, and when he lowers it he will see all the levels of the earth and the habitations of the jinn upon it. All of this is the result of faith, Iman, and experience, Marifa, of the Lord of Truth, almighty and glorious as He. Together with knowledge, ilm, of the law, hukm. When you have attained to this station, you must summon your fellow creatures to the door of the Lord of Truth, almighty and glorious as He, but nothing can come of you before this. If you invite the people when you are not yet at the door of the Lord of Truth, almighty and glorious as He, your invitation to them will fall as a curse upon you. Whenever you try to move, you will find yourself on your knees. Whenever you seek promotion you will be demoted. You do not have a clue about the righteous, Salahun. You are mere babble. You are a tongue, Lisan, without a soul, Janin. You are an outer, Zahir, with no inner, Batin. A public place, Jilwa, with no private room, Kalwa. A tour, Jala, with no force, Sala. Your sword is made of wood and your arrows are matchsticks. You are a coward with no courage. The most trifling arrow would kill you. A tiny bug could mean the end of the world as far as you are concerned. O Allah, fortify our religion, Adiyan, our faith, Iman, and our bodies, Abdin, with your nearness, and give us in this world good, and good in the hereafter, and guard us against the torment of the fire. 2-201. The Sheikh, may Allah the Exalted be well pleased with him, also said, there was a time when I did not sit in anyone's company. Then, if I did so at all, I would sit with 2 or 3 of those who were agreeable to me. You must seek the fellowship of the people of the Lord, for one of their attributes is that when they look at a person and focus their spiritual influence, himma, upon him, they love him, even if the recipient of their attention happens to be a Jew, Yehudi, or a Christian, Nasrani, or a Zoroastrian, Majusi. If he happens to be a Muslim, he will grow in faith, Iman, and certitude, Yaqeen, and firmness of conviction, Tathbit. If the heart is sound, the vision will be sound. If the heart is sound, it must have drawn near to the Lord of Truth, almighty and glorious as He. When someone looks with the eye of nearness and direct knowledge, Marifa, his gaze comes to be from Allah, almighty and glorious as He. The nearness becomes a cloud within his heart, while the gaze is its lightning flash, and the transmitted teaching, Waz, is its rain. His tongue gives expression to what is in his heart. His tongue becomes a pen, dipped in the inkwell of direct experience, Marifa, and the ocean of knowledge, ilm. His speech and his gaze become the lightning flash of that which is in his heart. Both of them become manifest from a powerful source in the presence of Allah, almighty and glorious as He. If someone genuinely carries out the divine commandments, observes the divine prohibitions and earns the good pleasure of the messenger, Allah bless him and give him peace, he will truly experience this. As he continues to feel the effects of it, he will wander about in a daze, searching for the source that gave rise to the experience, until the immediate effects of it wear off and his knowledge, ilm, and his nearness are greater than ever. Sincerity, sidq, in the quest for the Lord of Truth, almighty and glorious as He, is the fruit of righteous deeds, amal salihah. Righteous work is that which is performed purely for the sake of Allah, almighty and glorious as He, with no one else associated, sharik, in it. Righteous work will set you on the high road of His will for you. Then you must travel straight along it, turning off neither to right nor left, with the footsteps of your heart, your innermost being, sir, and your spiritual content, mana. You must travel entirely without company, not with creatures, not with this world and not with the hereafter. You will become one of those who seek only His countenance, and you will say, as Moses said, and I hastened unto you, my Lord, that you might be well pleased. 20-84. When someone seeks the good pleasure of Allah, Almighty and glorious as He, and His countenance, he comes to be as Allah, Almighty and glorious as He, has said concerning Moses, peace be upon him. And we had forbidden foster mothers to him before then, 28-12. Forbidden to the heart of this sincere lover, Muhib Sadiq, is the foster mother of every created fabrication, Mudath Mikluk, that is after it was not. The milk of all foster mothers will be dried up in his throat because of divine jealousy, Gaira Ilahaya. It all gets dried up. Everything is removed from his heart, so that he cannot be attached to anything apart from his beloved. This experienced believer, Mu'min Arif, will continue to earn the good pleasure of the messenger, Rasul, by working with him, until he asks permission for his heart to enter the presence of his Lord, Almighty and glorious as He. He will be like a servant, Ghulam, ready to do his bidding, and then, when he has long been in his service, he will say, O Master, Usta, show me the king's door. Employ me in his company. Let me stand in a place where I can see him. Let my hands hold the ring of the door of his nearness. So his master will take him along with him and lead him near to the door, where he asked, What have you with you there, O Muhammad? What have you with you there, O emissary, Safir, O guide, Dalil, teacher, Mu'allim? And he will reply, as you already know, a chicken, Farake. I have trained and whom I now find ready for service at this door. Then he will say to his servants, heart, here you are with your Lord, as Gabriel, peace be upon him, said to him when he carried him up to heaven and brought him near to his Lord, Almighty and glorious as He, here you are with your Lord. O young man, do righteous work and receive nearness to the Lord of the worlds. O young man, you must curtail your expectations and diminish your greedy ambition. Perform the prayer, salat, of one who is about to take his leave. It is not fitting for a believer, Mu'min, to go to sleep without having his last will and testament written and placed under his head, for if the Lord of truth, Almighty and glorious as He, allows him to wake up in good health, he will be blessed, and if not, his family will find his testamentary disposition, wasaya, to their benefit after his death, and they will pray for him to receive the mercy of Allah. You should eat as someone about to take his leave would eat. You should be with your family as someone about to take his leave of them would be. When you meet with your brethren, Ikhwan, you should do so like one who is about to take his leave of them. You must therefore instill in your heart, I am someone who is about to take his leave. How can it not be like this for a person whose business is in the control of someone other than himself? Only a very few individuals among all creatures are given to know what will happen to them, what will become of them, and at what time they will die. This is all stored within their hearts, and they can see it as plainly as you can see the sun up there, but their tongues give no expression to it. The first to become aware of this is the innermost being, Sir. Then the innermost being informs the heart, and the heart informs the tranquil self, and nafs al-mutmainah, as a confidential secret. It is made aware of this after it has received its education and spent time in the service of the heart. One becomes qualified for this after dedicated struggles and sufferings. A person who has attained to this station, Makam, is the deputy, Naib, of the Lord of Truth, Almighty and glorious as He, on the earth, and His vicegerent, Khalifa, upon it. He is the door to the mysteries, Bab al-Azrar. He holds the keys to the treasure houses of the hearts, they being the treasure houses of the Lord of Truth, Almighty and glorious as He. This is something beyond the comprehension of creatures. All that is visibly apparent about Him is merely a speck of dust from His mountain, a drop of water from His ocean, and a lamplight from His sun. O Allah, I beg pardon of you for speaking about these mysteries, although you know that I am overwhelmed, Maghlib. As one of the righteous has said, beware of that for which one needs to apologize. But when I get up on this platform I vanish from you all, and there is no one left in front of my heart for me to apologize to, or to make me wary of speaking to you. I ran away from you one time, only to fall into your midst. I made up my mind to spend each night in a different place, to travel from town to town and from village to village, and to be an exile in disguise until I died. This was what I wanted, but Allah, Almighty and glorious as He, wanted the very opposite, so I fell right into the middle of what I was trying to run away from. When this heart is sound, and one's feet are firmly planted at the door of the Lord of truth, almighty and glorious as he falls into the trackless wilderness of origination, Takwin, into its valleys and into its ocean. He will have his being sometimes in his speech, sometimes in his spiritual influence, hima, and sometimes in his gaze. He becomes the action, fil, of Allah, almighty and glorious as he, and is personally detached. He ceases to exist, yafna, while he remains in being, yabka. There are just a few of you who believe in this. The majority of you are those who deny the truth of it. To believe in this and to put it into practice is an ultimate degree, nihaya. No one would negate the spiritual states, a wall, of the righteous, salihun, except a hypocrite, munafiq, an impostor, dajjal, riding on his passions, hawa. This business is built on genuine conviction, itikad, then on practice, amal. If someone practices the outer form, zahir, of the law, hukm, that practice will result in his having experience, marifa, of Allah, almighty and glorious as he, and knowledge, ilm, of him. The law will come to be between him and creatures, and knowledge between him and his Lord, almighty and glorious as he. His outer actions, amal zahira, will come to be a mere speck in relation to his inner actions, amal batina. His physical organs may be in repose, but his heart will not rest. The eyes in his head may fall asleep, but his heart will not slumber. His heart will go on working and remembering while he is asleep. The story is told of how a certain righteous man was handling a string of prayer beads, subah, using them to count his praises of the Lord, yusabihu biya, until at some point he dozed off. Then he woke up again, and saw that the beads were circulating in his hand, while his tongue was still remembering his Lord, almighty and glorious as he. This heart receives a command, so it acts, and this innermost being, sir, receives a command, so it performs inner actions. And they have other works, besides that, which they are doing. 23 to 63. Outer actions are appropriate for ordinary servants, ibad, since they relate to the limbs and organs of the physical body, while inner actions are appropriate for the elite, kawas, since they relate to hearts and innermost beings, azr. The innermost of the innermost being, sir as sir, is between them and him, in a condition of fear despite their nearness. They fear the vicissitudes of change in spiritual states, a wall, and the loss of spiritual station, makam. They fear the transmutation, mask, of hearts. They are afraid that their hearts may be transmuted, that their suns and their moons may be eclipsed, and that their feet may stumble. They are always hanging on to the knob of the door of his nearness and clinging to the hem of his mercy, as they implore him, our Lord, what we want from you is neither this world nor the hereafter. All we want is pardon and well-being in our religion, din. We want our faith, iman, and knowledge, marifa, to endure. Please grant us this favor, we have clung to the hem of your mercy, so do not dash the hopes we have placed in you. Cause this to be for us, for when you want something you say to it, be, and it is. O my people, you must follow the people of the Lord, in their words and their deeds, serve them, gain access to them with your goods and your persons. Everything you give them is yours, safe in their keeping. Tomorrow at the resurrection they will hand it over to you. You wish for a life of luxury, but the pen of destiny has pre-recorded straitened circumstances for you, so you are chastened and despised, since you are trying to get what has not been assigned to your lot. You go to such lengths in quest of this world, and you are so greedy, but no part of it belongs to you except the share that has been allotted to you. The people of the Lord have an attitude of worshipful obedience and their hearts are apprehensive, anxious or fearful that something bad or unpleasant will happen, whereas your attitude is one of sinful disobedience and your hearts feel secure. This is the very essence of delusion. Be on your guard, in case he should seize you unawares. The Prophet, Allah bless him and give him peace, is reported as having said, in every specialized craft, Sana, you should seek the help of a qualified expert. This worshipful service, Abada, is a specialized craft, and its qualified experts are those who are sincere, muklisun, about their work, those who are learned, alimin, in the law, hukm, and who put it into practice, amilun, those who take their leave of creatures after their experience, marifa, of him, those who flee from their own selves, from their possessions and their children and everything apart from their Lord, almighty and glorious is he, running on the feet of their hearts and their innermost beings, Azrar. Their physical forms are in civilized surroundings among creatures, while their hearts are in the wastelands and deserts. They keep to this pattern until their hearts are well trained and their wings are strong enough to fly up into the sky. Their spiritual aspirations, hamam, are lofty and their hearts soar up into the presence of the Lord of truth, almighty and glorious as he. So they come to be among those concerning whom Allah has said, and surely in our sight they are among the chosen, the excellent. 38-47. When faith, iman, has become certitude, yaqeen, certitude has become direct experience, marifa, and direct experience has become knowledge, ilm. Then you will become an expert, jaba, for the sake of Allah, almighty and glorious as he. You will take from the hand of the rich and give back to the poor. You will become the owner of the restaurant, dishing out nourishment with the hand of your heart and your innermost being, sir. You deserve no respect at all, O hypocrite, until you have come to he like this. Alas for you, you have not received instruction at the hand of a pious, abstinent sheikh, learned in the law, hukm, of Allah, almighty and glorious as he. Alas for you, you want something for nothing. It will not drop into your hand. When things of this world cannot be gained without strenuous effort, how about what is in the presence of Allah, almighty and glorious as he? Where do you stand in relation to those whom Allah, almighty and glorious as he, has commended, in the precise terms of his book, for worshipping him so frequently? Of them he has said, they used to sleep only a little during the night, and with the dawning of each day they would seek forgiveness. 51-17, 18. When he recognized the sincerity, sidq, of their dedication to his service, he appointed an agent to wake them up and arouse them from their beds. As the Prophet, Allah bless him and give him peace, has said, Allah, almighty and glorious as he, will say, O Gabriel, make so and so get up, and put that other person to sleep. There are two ways of interpreting this. First, as meaning, make so and so get up, for he is sincere, Sadiq, in his worshipful service, a fugitive from his sins. Drive trouble and sleep away from him, and put that other person to sleep, for he is a hypocritical liar. He is falsehood within falsehood, a curse within a curse, so cast the spell of slumber upon him, so that I shall not see his face among those who stand upright. The other way of taking it would be, make so and so get up, for he is a lover, muhib, who is still seeking, and a necessary part of the lover's condition is weary toil. And put that other person to sleep, because he is a beloved, mabub, and a necessary part of the beloved's condition is restful comfort. He must be allowed to sleep and rest, because he has been working night and day in order to fulfill his covenant and to prove himself true in his love. Since he has fully accomplished this, the moment has come for the fulfillment of the covenant of Allah, almighty and glorious as he, because he has guaranteed rest in his company to all who are weary from toil on his behalf. As for the people of the Lord, when the footsteps of their hearts have finally led them to their Lord, almighty and glorious as he, they will see in their sleep what they never saw in their state of wakefulness. Their hearts and their innermost beings, Azrar, will see something they cannot see while they are awake. They have fasted, samu, and prayed, salah. They have fought their lower selves by subjecting them to hunger and disgrace, and they have labored night and day to perform all kinds of worshipful service, abadat, until the garden of paradise has come to be theirs. But now that it is theirs, they will be told, the way is not this. It is the quest for the Lord of truth, almighty and glorious as he. Their work must come to be performed in the sphere of their hearts, then when it reaches him it will be confirmed and authenticated in his sight. When someone knows what he is looking for, he attaches little importance to the energy and effort he devotes to the obedient service of his Lord, almighty and glorious as he. The believer, mu'min, never ceases to labor until he meets his Lord, almighty and glorious is he. Woe unto you! You claim to be my disciple, yet you keep your property hidden from me. You are lying when you make such a claim. The disciple, Murid, has neither shirt nor turban, neither gold nor money to his name in relation to his sheikh. He just eats at his table whatever he tells him to eat. He has no existence of his own, huwa fanan anhu, as he waits for his sheikh to tell him what he must do and what he must not do, because he acknowledges that this comes from Allah, almighty and glorious is he. His best interests are being looked after by his sheikh, and he is held on a tight rein. If you harbor any doubts about your sheikh, you should not stay in his company, for it will do you no good to share his fellowship or become his disciple. When a sick person has doubts about hip physician, he cannot be cured by his treatment. After some discussion, the sheikh, may Allah be well pleased with him, went on to say, when someone has achieved genuine detachment, zuhd, from creatures, it is correct for them to feel attracted to him. They can derive benefit from hearing what he has to say and from paying attention to him. When you know creatures through knowledge, ilm, of Allah, almighty and glorious is he, and experience them through experience, marifa, of him, their attributes will disappear from you. Jinn and human beings and angels will vanish from you. Your heart will assume a different character, as will your innermost being, sir. The shell of your existence, wujud, will be removed from you, the shell of the usual custom, Ada, of the children of Adam, peace be upon him. The law, hukm, will come and form a gown for you to wear, so you will go about the earth clothed, commanding yourself and all fellow creatures of your Lord, almighty and glorious is he, to obey his commandment. Knowledge lordly and divine, al-ilmar Rabbani al-alai, will come and form a garment over your heart and your innermost being, sir. You must hold fast to what the messenger, Rasul, has brought you. Namely the book and the sunnah, for anyone who abandons these two is guilty of atheism, tazandaka, and has strayed from the fold of Islam. The fire and torment of hell will therefore be his resort in the long term, while in the short term he is treated as an abomination. The heart that knows by experience, Arif, has something else in its relationship with the Lord of Truth, almighty and glorious as he, after implementing the law, Ekam al-Hukm, and actually standing at the door of the Lord of Truth, almighty and glorious as he. Such then is he who deserves to be followed and to have his words heeded, and this is why it is forbidden to follow those who do not implement the law, because it is something that cannot be dispensed with. It is fundamental to this business that one must implement the divine commandment in practice and in all sincerity, ikhlas, and must teach it to other people. This makes one great in the sight of Allah, almighty and glorious is he. And this is why the Prophet, Allah bless him and give him peace, has said, if someone learns, ta'alama, practices, amala, and teaches, alama, he will be called great in the kingdom of heaven, malakit. You must not retire to your hermit cell with ignorance for company, because to isolate yourself from your fellow creatures in a state of ignorance is a great and total perversion. This is why the Prophet, Allah bless him and give him peace, has said, complete your studies, tafaka, then you may retire. It is not appropriate for you to withdraw into the hermit cell, as long as there is anyone upon the face of the earth whom you fear and on whom you pin your hopes. There should be no one left as far as you are concerned, apart from one who is feared and one who is looked to in hope, namely Allah, almighty and glorious is he. I recognize only Allah, almighty and glorious is he, and the observance of his religion, din, as the way to draw near to him. I observe his religion and I support it for his sake, not for the sake of any other. The champion of the truth, Sadiq, has heard the crier of the religion calling out to summon his heart and his innermost being, sir. When the common folk, awam, transgress its limits, when they ignore its prohibitions, give up following its commandments and turn their backs upon it, he can hear how that voice is crying out and appealing to Allah, almighty and glorious is he, for assistance. So he sets to work with a will and stands ready in his presence, helping him to command what is right and fair, maruf, and to forbid what is wrong and unfair, munkar. giving him good advice and coming to his defense. He does this with the strength of his Lord, almighty and glorious is he, not with the strength of his own lower self, nafs, his passions, hawa, his natural impulses, tab, his recklessness, ru'una, his stupidity, jahala, and his hypocrisy, nifaq. Worshipful service, abada, means giving up habitual behavior, ada. There can be no habitual conduct until you come to be in the situation of worshipful service. You must do away with attachment to this world and the hereafter, and become attached to the Lord of truth, almighty and glorious is he. Do not try to pass counterfeit coins, for the assayer has a sharp eye. He will accept nothing from you without applying the touchstone, mahak. Take that counterfeit stuff you carry around with you and toss it away. Do not regard it as having any value. Nothing will be accepted from you as precious metal unless it has been exposed to the goldsmith's bellows and purified of dross, so do not imagine this to be an easy business. Most of you would claim to be sincere, but are actually hypocrites. Were it not for the examination, imtiham, the claims would be more numerous still. If someone lays claim to tolerance, hilm, we put him to the test by provoking him to anger. If someone lays claim to generosity, karam, we put him to the test by making demands of him. Whatever a person lays claim to, we test him with its opposite. You must rid yourselves of crazy delusion and practice pious devotion, taqwa, under all circumstances. To the piously devoted, mutachun, belongs the Lord. You must conscientiously avoid, itachu, the association of partners with him, shirk, at the root, and sins of disobedience in the branch. Then cling to the two ropes that are the book and the sunnah, and never let them slip from your hands. The Lord of truth, almighty and glorious as he, is generous, kareem. He does not impose a double fear upon a servant. The people of the Lord have already experienced their fear in this world, in connection with their eating and drinking, finding clothes to wear, getting married, and all their functions and dealings. They have given up everything that is unlawful, haram, or dubious, shubha, as well as much of that which is lawful, halal, from fear of the reckoning, hasab, of their Lord, almighty and glorious is he, and the prospect of severe chastisement. They have exercised pious restraint in their eating and drinking and in every area of their lives. They gave things up by abstaining from them. Then when abstinence, zuhd, was firmly established, it became a real experience, marifa. And when the real experience was firmly established, it became the knowledge, ilm, of Allah, almighty and glorious as he. And so it became a crown upon their heads. What is certain, therefore, is that everything belonging in the categories of the unlawful, the dubious, or the indifferently permissible, mubah, has come to be out of bounds for them, so they are left with the absolutely lawful, halal tilq, that which is so unmistakably lawful to the champions of the truth, sadiqun, that they are not suspicious of it or worried about it at all. When the servant has renounced both this world and the hereafter, and has forsaken everything apart from the Lord of truth, almighty and glorious is he, and when his heart has found its way to the abode of his nearness, his favors and his gracious kindness, he does not burden him with having to procure food, drink, clothing or any of his needs. He relieves his heart of all such preoccupations. The hearts of those brought near to him are constantly absorbed in the book of nearness and special knowledge, ilm kas, which teaches their hearts and their innermost beings, asrar, to become extinct, fana, to willful desires, aradat, and to fall prostrate, istitra, in the presence of the Lord of truth, almighty and glorious as he. Thus he takes care of them and will not entrust them to anyone other than himself. He makes them disappear beyond the comprehension of creatures, beyond this visible realm, zahir. Then, if he so wills, he resurrects them and sends them back out again. The first knowledge, ilm, is corroborated by the second knowledge. Ignorance, then knowledge, then practice plus sincerity, ikhlas, then a second knowledge and a second practice, a silence and then an utterance, an extinction, fana, to yourself, then an existence, wujud, in him. O you who are dead at heart, what is the point of your sitting here in my presence? O slaves of this world and its potentates, O slaves of the rich, O slaves of extravagance and indulgences, rukas, woe unto you! Even if the price of a grain of wheat should rise as high as 1 dinar, gold coin, the believer, mu'min, would not get worried or feel concerned about his sustenance, because of the strength of his certitude, yaqeen, and his trusting reliance on his Lord, almighty and glorious as he. Do not count yourself among the believers. Away with you! All things are the soldiers of Allah, almighty and glorious as he, and his scourges. The avoidance of creatures is correct, haq, and devotion to their Creator is even more correct, ahaqq. It seems to me that you fail to grasp what I am saying. You must follow the indications of the affirmation of divine unity, Tawhid, and pay close attention to the words of the champions of truth, Siddiqun, and the saints, Awliya. Their speech is like inspiration, wahi, from Allah, almighty and glorious as he. They speak on his behalf and at his command, beyond the competence of the common herd, awam tagham. You are crazy. You compose your speech from the books and then deliver it. If you lost your written notes, what would you do? What if your books caught fire? Or if the lamp you see to read by went out? If your jar broke and the ink got spilled? Where would you find your flint, your tinderbox, your matches and your assistant? When someone acquires knowledge, puts it into practice and does so sincerely, his flint and his assistant come to be within his heart, a light from the light of Allah, almighty and glorious as he. He can then provide illumination for himself and for others. Away with you, O sons of Babel, O sons of pages composed by the hands of the lower selves, Nufus, and the passions, Awiya. Woe unto you, you are quarreling with the lucky one, Mazuz. You will be crushed and destroyed and will fail to achieve your own good fortune. How can the preordainment, sabika, and foreknowledge, ilm, be altered by your effort? You must be believers who surrender themselves, mu'min and Muslimin. Surely you have heard his words, almighty and glorious as he. Those who believed in our signs and had surrendered themselves. 43 to 69. The reality, hakika, of Islam is submissive obedience, istislam. The people of the Lord have thrown themselves prostrate before the Lord of truth, almighty and glorious as he. They have forgotten why, and how, and do, and don't. They perform works of obedient service, tat, of all kinds, and their attitude is one of fearfulness. This is why the Lord of truth, almighty and glorious as he, has described them approvingly in these words of his. They give that which they give with hearts afraid. 23 to 60. In other words, they carry out the commandments of Allah, almighty and glorious as he, and observe his prohibitions. They endure with patience the tests I set them and they are grateful for the gifts I give them. They surrender, yuzul limuna, their own selves, their goods, their children and their reputations into the hand of my preordainment, while their hearts are timorous, showing fear, afraid of me. When the knower, Arif, abstains from the hereafter, he says to it, get out of my way, for I am seeking the door of the Lord of truth, almighty and glorious as he. Both you and this world are one as far as I am concerned. This world used to screen me off from you, and now you are screening me off from my Lord, almighty and glorious as he. No respect is due to anyone who tries to screen me off from him. You must hear what is being said to you now, for it is the essence, lub, of the knowledge, ilm, of Allah, almighty and glorious as he. The essence of what he wishes from his creatures and for his creatures, namely the spiritual state, how, of the prophets, Anbiya, the messengers, Mursalin, the saints, Awliya, and the righteous, Salihun. O slaves of this world, O slaves of the hereafter, you are ignorant of Allah, almighty and glorious as he, of this lower world of his and of his other world. You are solid walls, each of you has an idol, Sanam. You there, your idol is this world. And you, your idol is the hereafter. As for you, creatures are your idol. Then in your case, the desires and pleasures of the flesh are your idol, while in yours the idol is praise and applause and popular acceptance. Everything apart from Allah, almighty and glorious as he, is an idol. The people of the Lord wish only for his countenance. This world and the hereafter should be partaken of at the door of the Lord of Tianith, almighty and glorious as he. They should be consumed in the clinic of the physician, who will take what he needs from each to feed the invalid. O hypocrites, you do not have a clue about this. The hypocrite is incapable of hearing a single word of this. It is the end of the world for him, because he cannot hear the truth. Hack. My words are true, and I am in the right. Allah hack. What I am saying comes from Allah, almighty and glorious is He. Not from me. From the sacred law, Shar, not from fantasy. But you are sadly lacking in the faculty of understanding. Woe unto you! You have acquired knowledge, but you have failed to put your knowledge into practice, so how can your knowledge bring you any benefit? You have not served the sheikhs in your youth, so how can you serve them now that you are adults? There is not a believer, mu'min, whose eyes will not be uncovered at death, so that he can see what belongs to him in the garden of paradise. The dark-eyed damsels, Hur al-Ain, and young servants will beckon to him. The sweet perfume of the garden will reach him, so death and its agonies, Sakarat, will seem pleasant to him. The Lord of truth, almighty and glorious as He, does to them, the believers, what He did to Asiya, wife of Pharaoh, peace be upon her. Some of them are aware of this before death, namely those who are brought near to the Lord. Mukarabin, singled out, Mafradin, and sought after, Muradun. Woe unto you, O you who resist the Lord of truth, almighty and glorious as He. Cut out that useless ranting and raving. No one can reverse the decree of destiny, Qada, and no one can deflect it. Submit, Salim, and you will find peace. This night and this day, is it possible for you to turn them back? When the night comes it will set in whether you are happy about it or not, and the same applies to the day. Each of them takes its course without reference to you, and so it is with the decree, Qada, of Allah, almighty and glorious as He, and His destiny, Qadir, whether to your advantage or to your disadvantage. When the night of poverty comes, you must submit and say goodbye to the day of affluence. When the night of sickness comes, you must submit and say goodbye to the day of good health. When the night of what you dislike comes, you must submit and say goodbye to the day of what you like. You must welcome with a tranquil heart the night of sicknesses, ailments, poverty and disgrace. Do not reject any part of the decree of Allah, almighty and glorious as He. For if you do you will perish, your faith, Iman, will be lost, your heart will be thrown into murky confusion, and your innermost being, Sir, will die. As Allah, almighty and glorious as He, has said in one of His books. I am the one God, Allah, except for whom there is none worthy of worship, Allah. If someone submits obediently, Istislama, to my decree, endures my tribulation with patience, and gives thanks for my blessings, I shall record him in my presence as a champion of the truth, Sadiq. And if someone does not submit obediently to my decree, does not endure my tribulation with patience, and does not give thanks for my blessings, then let him seek a Lord, Rabbi, apart from me. If you are not willing to accept the decree, if you do not endure the tribulation with patience, and if you do not give thanks for the gracious blessings, then you have no Lord. You may try to find some other Lord instead of Him, but there is no other Lord besides Him. If you wish for Him, you must be willing to accept the decree, Qada, and believe in destiny, Qadir, both the good parts of it and the bad, both the sweet parts of it and the bitter. You must also believe that what has fallen to your lot could not have been avoided by taking precautions, and that what has passed you by could not have been made to come your way, however diligently you sought to acquire it. When faith, Iman, has become a reality, Tahakaka, for you, you will move forward to the door of saintship, Walaya. For at this stage you will have come to be one of those servants of Allah who really carry out their servitude, Ubudiyah, to Him. The distinctive feature of the saint, Wali, is that he is ready to comply with the wishes of his Lord, almighty and glorious as He under all circumstances. He becomes total compliance, muwafaka, with no question of why or how, while always carrying out the commandments and observing the prohibitions of the sacred law. There can be no doubt that he will always enjoy His fellowship. He will proceed in the company of His nearness, turning neither to right nor left and never going backwards, but only straight ahead. He will come to be a front without a back, a nearness with no remoteness, a pure serenity with no murky confusion, a goodness with no evil. As for you, your hopes are pinned on creatures and they are the object of your fear. This makes you guilty of associating partners, shirk, with your Lord, almighty and glorious as He. Your praise goes to creatures when you are given things, and your blame is directed at them when things are withheld from you. This also amounts to attributing partners to your Lord, almighty and glorious as He. Woe unto you! No part of this should be directed toward them. There is nothing good about you. You are quite without realization of the divine unity, Tawhid. All things are brought into being by Allah, almighty and glorious as He, and are received from Him, not from His creatures. They are received on the return journey to His door, after the way to Him had been blocked. The material means, sabab, is at the initial stage, the originator, musabab, at the final stage. The novice expects to get what he wants from the material means, just as a baby bird will look to the father or mother bird to provide it with food. When it has grown and learned to fly, however, it can manage without them. It relies on the strength of its own wings and goes looking for food all by itself. Has any one of you ever taken a bite to eat from the hand of his absolute trust, tawakkul, in his Lord, almighty and glorious as He, without resorting to his own power and strength or to creatures and his reliance on them? Woe unto you! You claim to possess what you do not have in you. How can you lay claim to Islam, faith, iman, conviction, iqan, and the affirmation of divine unity, Tawhid, as long as you have such confidence in your own power and strength and in your material means? Be sensible, this business does not come about through mere claims. Woe unto you! You sit up here and preach to the people, then you mingle with them to laugh and tell funny stories. There can be no doubt that neither you nor they will prosper. The preacher, Ways, is an instructor and an educator, while those in his audience are like young children. A youngster will not study unless one is tough with him and treats him firmly and sternly. There are no more than a few individuals among them who can keep up their studies without this kind of treatment, being gifted with a special talent, mafiba, from Allah, almighty and glorious as He. Many of those who profess Islam outwardly will actually say, as the unbelievers, kuffar, have said, surely there is nothing but our life in this world. We die and we live, and nothing destroys us but time. 45-25. This is what they said, and many of those I am referring to would say the same. They make it obvious by the actions that mark their behavior, so in my estimation they amount to nothing and they have less than the weight of a mosquito's wing to show in the presence of the Lord of truth, almighty and glorious as He. They have no intelligence and possess no faculty of discrimination by which to tell the difference between what is harmful and what is beneficial. Let us consider what He, almighty and glorious as He, has said in the story of Joseph, peace be upon him. Allah forbid that we should seize anyone except him with whom we found our property. 12-79. What if someone is found in possession of the property of saintship, wilaya, the affirmation of divine unity, Tawhid, and faith, iman? When the heart is worthy of Allah, almighty and glorious as He does not leave it in the sphere of creatures and material means. He does not let it stay in the sphere of buying and selling, of trading in material means. He singles it out for special attention, saves it, raises it up from its fallen state, lodges it at His door and lets it sleep in the chamber of His gracious favor. Woe unto you! The shirt of your Islam is torn to shreds. The robe of your faith, iman, is soiled. You are naked. Your heart is ignorant. Your innermost being, sir, is confused. Your breast is not opened wide to Islam. Your inner, batin, is a wasteland while your outer, zahir, is flourishing. Your record sheets have all been written on. This world of yours, which you love so much, is about to move away from you, while the grave and the hereafter are coming toward you. Wake up and pay attention to the state of your affairs and what you will soon have to face. Your death may happen today, or even in this very hour, intervening between you and your expectations. You will not find or catch up with the things you hope for from this world, while the things of the hereafter which you have neglected will catch up with you. To be preoccupied with anything other than Allah is craziness, and it is craziness to fear and pin one's hopes on any other than Him. There is no one who can either cause us harm or bring us benefit apart from Allah, almighty and glorious is He. For it is He who has assigned a material means, sabab, to each and everything. The law, hukm, applies to the material means. If you act in accordance with the law, you will thereby make the action correct. The material means, asbab, will then fall away from you as leaves fall from the tree. The originator, musabab, will become manifest and the material means will disappear. The kernel, lubble, will become manifest and the shell will disappear. The kernel is dependence on the originator. He is the root, while it is like the fruit from the tree. One who realizes the divine unity, mawahid, will progress through the spiritual states, awal. He will progress from the water skin to the irrigation canal, from the irrigation canal to the river and from the river to the ocean. He will progress from the branch to the root, from the child, wilad, to the parent, walid, from the servant, abid, to the master, mabud, from the art, sana, to the artist, sani, from the incompetent, ajiz, the capable, qadir, from poverty to affluence, from weakness to strength, from little to much. Do not adopt a superior attitude toward me. Most of you have hearts that are devoid of faith, iman, and each and every one of you has some pressing need in his lower self, nafs. So let him rein it in with the bridle of silence and good behavior, and let him arm it with the armor of pious devotion, taqwa. For this is the means by which it can achieve tranquility, tamanina, and attain to its Lord, almighty and glorious as He. Attainment, wusul, is of two kinds, the common, and the special, khas. The common kind is attainment to Allah, almighty and glorious as He, after death, while the special kind is the attainment of the hearts of a few rare individuals to Allah, almighty and glorious as He, even before death. These are the ones who struggle to combat their own lower selves, anfus, by opposing them in every way, and who become detached from creatures in all that relates to harm and benefit. If they make a constant practice of this, they attain to Him in this life, just as the common folk, awam, attain to Him after death. When someone has truly experienced this, he will obtain mastery, tamakin, and ease, bast, and will enjoy mutual conversation, muhadatha, and entertainment, muanasa, in the presence of the Lord. Then he who has attained to this, hadhal wasul, will say, and come to me with all your folk. 12-93. When Joseph, peace be upon him, had emerged from the well in the prison, and had borne those hardships with patience, and when he had acquired authority and everything was at his disposal, he said to his brothers, and come to me with all your folk. 12-93. This was when wealth and dominion had come to him, when hardship, qabd, had departed and ease, bast, had arrived. Prior to that he had been speechless in the well in the prison. It was only after he emerged that he acquired fluency of speech. O my people! You must seek everything from the Creator of all things. You must devote the whole of you to the quest for Him. The people of the Lord have sacrificed their spirits, Allah, in the quest for the nearness of their Lord, almighty and glorious is He. They realized who it was they were seeking, so they attached little importance to the sacrifice of their spirits. When a person knows what he is seeking, he attaches little importance to what he must sacrifice for it. There is a story about a man who once happened to be passing by the private quarters of a slave trader, Nakakas, where he caught sight of a very attractive slave girl. She so captivated his heart that he was quite unable to press on and leave the place behind. Well, he had beneath him a horse worth 100 dinars, gold coins, he had beautiful clothes on his person, he had in his belt a sword embellished with gold, and he had a black slave in his service to carry the trappings. So he approached the girl's owner and asked him to make a deal. Without a doubt, her owner said to him, "You have fallen in love with my slave girl." The lover will sacrifice all that he possesses in a quest for his beloved, and I shall only sell her to you in exchange for everything you have in your possession at this very moment. The man at once dismounted from his horse, stripped off all the clothes he was wearing, borrowed a shirt from the slave trader, and handed the whole lot over to him, together with the slave he had in his own service. Then he took the slave girl and made his way home, barefooted and bareheaded. Having paid the price, he took what was valued at that price. He really knew, Arafa, what he was looking for, so he attached little importance to what he would have to sacrifice. When someone is sincere, Sadiq, about love, he will not stick with anyone but his beloved. Suppose some creature were to say, "I have heard of the garden of paradise and the bliss it contains, through the words of Allah Almighty and glorious is He. And therein is all that souls desire and eyes find sweet." 43:71. So what does it cost? Our reply to him would be, Allah Almighty and glorious is He, has said. Allah has bought from the believers their persons and their goods, the garden of paradise being theirs for the price. 9:111. You must surrender, salim, self, nafs, and property, then it will come to be yours. Suppose someone else were to say, "I wish to be one of those who seek His countenance. My heart has caught a glimpse of the door of His nearness, and has seen the lovers going into it and coming out of it wearing the robes of honor conferred by the King. So what is the price of entry?" To him we would reply, "You must sacrifice the whole of you. You must give up your carnal appetites and pleasures. You must become so absorbed in Him that you cease to exist, wafna fihi anka. You must say goodbye to the garden of paradise and all that it contains, and leave it behind. You must say goodbye to the lower self, nafs, to passions, hawa, and natural inclinations, tab. You must say goodbye to desires both worldly and otherworldly. You must say goodbye to everyone and leave them all behind the back of your heart. Then you may enter, and then you will see things that no eye has ever seen, that no ear has ever heard of, and that have never occurred to any human heart. When someone has fully experienced this, and the feet of his heart are firmly planted in it, both this world and the hereafter will belong to him. He will have them both as a sheer blessing, nima, with no curse, nikma. They will receive him as a welcome guest, and his reward will be nearness to the Lord and the sight of him. The nearness he will experience in this world, with his heart, and the sight he will experience on the day of resurrection, Yom al-Qiyamah, with his eye. O young man, say, Allah, then lead them to their idle prattling. 6:97. Say, He who created me, and He guides me. 26:78. O you who abstain from this world, when your heart moves away from it, seeking the hereafter, say, He who created me, and He guides me. 26:78. And you, O seeker of the Lord of truth, almighty and glorious is he, you who are longing for him and abstaining from everything apart from him. When your heart moves away from the door of the garden of paradise to go looking for its master, Mala, say, He who created me, and he guides me. 26:78. You must pay close attention to his guidance, Hadayah, over the rugged stretches of the path. O you who wish to travel by these two paths, the one of this world and the other of the hereafter, you must seek directions from those who have trodden them both and are very familiar with the danger spots along them. I am referring to those sheikhs who put their knowledge into practice and are sincere, mukhlasin, in all their deeds. O young man, you must be the attendant servant of the guide. Follow him and leave your itinerary in his hands as you travel together with him, sometimes on his right, sometimes on his left, sometimes behind him and sometimes out in front of him. You must never go beyond his sight, and never contradict what he tells you, for then you will arrive at your destination and will not wander off and lose your way. You must affirm the oneness, wa'ad, of your Lord, almighty and glorious is he, then you will be shielded from worries, and cares will no longer trouble you. When Abraham, peace be upon him, was placed in the catapult Manjanik to be slung into the fiery furnace, he ignored all intermediaries and would not turn to anyone other than his Lord, almighty and glorious is he. Of course he said to the fire, O fire, be coolness and peace for Abraham. 21:69. In other words, O fire, away with you. Change and be transformed. Get rid of your heat and your malice. Get rid of your spear and your sword, your heat and your anger. You must dissipate and dissolve. Become a coolness and a chill that can do no harm. All of this was possible through the blessed grace of the affirmation of divine unity, Tawhid, and sincerity, Ikhlas, making that affirmation. When the servant affirms the oneness of his Lord, almighty and glorious is he, and is sincere in doing so, it sometimes happens that he exercises his creative power on his behalf, Yukawinulahu, so that the servant enters into his creative action, Taqwan. At other times he will put the creative power at his servant's disposal, so that he can exercise it on his own behalf, Yukawinuhuwa huali nafsihi. This he does only for his special favorites, Kawas, among his creatures. Everyone who enters the garden of paradise will experience saying to a thing, be, and having it come into being. Our present discussion is about the exercise of creative power in the here and now, not in the future. Abraham, peace be upon him, always had an attitude of absolute trust, tawakkul, both when he was little and in his adult life. When people are holding themselves aloof from their neighbors and others, when you have more mouths to feed at the same time as you are facing poverty and straitened circumstances, while prices are becoming inflated and your brothers are shutting their doors in your faces, you are going to remember what I am saying to you now. You will remember and you will be sorry. Listen and learn from me, for I am an agent Nabe, acting on behalf of the messenger, Rasul, and the one who gave him his mission, Man Arsalahu. Oh my God, Ya Allah, I beg you for pardon, AFW, and well-being, Afia, in performing this agent's task, Niyaba. Help me to carry out this business I am engaged in. You have taken the prophets, Anbiya, and messengers, Rusul, unto yourself, and you have left me standing in the front rank. I must hear the brunt of your creatures, so I beg you for pardon and well-being. Shield me from the evil of all devils among human beings and jinn, and from the evil of all created beings. Ameen. The Sheikh, may Allah be well pleased with him, also went on to say, O pious abstainers, O servants, you must be sincere, otherwise do not try to follow. You have acquired a fondness for fasting, Psalm, and performing the prayer, Salat, and for roughing it where food and clothing are concerned, but without conscious intention, Naya, or sincerity, Ikhlas. In fact, the lower self, nafs, comes into it and the passions are involved. Woe unto you! The practice of the people of the Lord comes from somewhere beyond all that, from the region of their hearts. They move in step with destiny, Qadar, in fellowship with the law, Hukam, and in keeping with its rules, in both the outer Zahir and the inner Batin, in private and in public, in their relations with both the Creator and His creatures. They acknowledge the worth of every worthy person and give evilly deserving person his due. They pay due respect to the Book of Allah, Almighty and glorious is He, to the Sunnah of His Prophet, and to the knowledge, ilm, of Allah, Almighty and glorious is He, that resides in their hearts. They respect the rights, haqaq, of the family, the right, haq, of the self, nafs, the right of the heart, and the rights of all creatures. They are in a position to delegate authority and to empower, to imprison and to set free, to receive and to grant. They require observance of the rules of law, hudud, by hearts and innermost beings, asrar, and lower selves, nufus. They call their fellow creatures to account. This is something far beyond the scope of your affairs and the range of your knowledge. If the believer, Mu'min, offers sound advice to his brother, but he will not take instruction from him, he should say to him, you will surely remember what I am telling you. I now delegate my concern in the matter to Allah. Someone who has real knowledge, arif, will combat the lower selves, nufus, of his fellow creatures with the sword of his affirmation of divine unity, tawhid, and his experience, marifa. If he takes any of them prisoner, he will conduct them to the door of his king, who is aware, basir, of his servants. There is nothing dearer to the believer, mu'min, than worshipful service, ibadah. The thing that is most dear to him is getting up to perform the prayer, salat. While he is sitting at home, his heart will be waiting for the muezzin, muaddin, who is the caller, da'i, of the Lord of Truth, Almighty and glorious is He. When he hears the call to prayer, adhan, a feeling of happiness enters his heart and he flies off to the large congregational mosques, jawami, or to the smaller places of worship, masajid. He rejoices when a beggar comes his way. If he has anything on him he gives it to him, because he has heard the words of the Prophet, Allah bless him and give him peace. The beggar is the gift, hadiyah, of Allah, Almighty and glorious is He, to His servant. How could he fail to rejoice, having carried out the commandment of his Lord, Almighty and glorious is He, when he was asking him for a loan by way of the poor man's hand? Such are the proper forms of behavior, adab, for the worshipful believer, mu'min abid. As for one who has real knowledge, arif, he always keeps to the rules of the sacred law, hudad ashhar, and keeps his heart from being penetrated by anything other than his Lord, Almighty and glorious is He. He is wary of looking into his heart, in case he should see within it the fear of someone other than him, hope pinned on someone other than him, and reliance placed on someone other than him. He keeps his heart clear of contamination by creatures and material means, asbab. He dislikes having to meet with creatures, but he cannot avoid them, because they are sick and he is their physician. He cares neither for life in this world nor for life in the hereafter, but glories in the nearness of his Lord, Almighty and glorious is He, for He is all that he longs for and would willingly choose. The Prophet, Allah bless him and give him peace, is reported as having said, on the day of resurrection, Allah Almighty and glorious is He, will say to His believing servants, you have preferred your life hereafter to your worldly life and you have preferred my worship to your carnal desires. By my glory, Izzati, and my majesty, Jalali, I did not create my garden of paradise for anything but your benefit. This is what He will say to these believing servants. As for those who are His lovers, muhibban, this is what He will say to them. You have preferred me to all my creatures, to my lower world and to my other world. You have dismissed all creatures from your hearts and banished them from your innermost beings, Asrar, so this my countenance is for you, my nearness is for you, and you are my servants in very truth. Among the saints, Aliyah, there are some who partake in their own day of the food and drink of the garden of paradise, and who see everything that it contains. Then there are those who pass beyond eating and drinking, become detached from creatures and invisible to them, and continue to inhabit the earth without dying, like Ilyas and Qadir. Allah Almighty and glorious is He, has a considerable number of such invisible ones on the earth, able to see people while people cannot see them. The saints, Aliyah, among them constitute a majority, while the eminent figures, Ayan, among them are a small minority, just a few isolated individuals, whose favor everyone comes seeking. It is through their agency that the earth becomes fruitful, that rain falls from the sky, and that creatures are shielded from disaster. The food and drink of the angels, Malaika, is the remembrance dhikr of the Lord of Truth, Almighty and glorious is He, the proclamation of His glory, Tasbih, and the declaration of His uniqueness, Tali, the utterance of the words La ilaha illallah, meaning, there is none worthy of worship except the one Almighty God. For a few individuals among the saints, Aliyah, this comes to be their food also. What do you get out of listening to this? Most of you are the slaves of Iblis and the delight of his eye. No respect is due to you or to him. O monk Dairi, you and the rest of you must leave his service and pan company with him. Enter the presence of the Lord of Truth, Almighty and glorious is He, with the feet of your hearts, and beg Him to show you how you can earn His good pleasure. Beg Him to employ you in His service. Beg Him to show you the way to a treasure that can never be exhausted, to a spring that will never run dry. Beg Him to make this world hateful to you, and to make you love the hereafter. Then, when He has granted you these blessings, beg Him to make the hereafter hateful to you, and to grant you the blessings of working for His sake, of loving Him and of shunning everything apart from Him. You are the slave of creatures, the slave of the material means, sabab. If you were the slave of the Lord of truth, almighty and glorious is he, all your affairs would be delegated to him and all your needs would be left in his charge. Why do you say things when your actions give the lie to what you say? Surely you must have heard the words of your Lord, almighty and glorious is he. O you who believe, why do you say that which you do not do? It is most hateful in the sight of Allah that you say that which you do not do. 61. 2, 3. Your angels must be astonished at your impudence. They must be amazed at the extent to which you lie about your actual condition. They must be shocked at the insincerity in your affirmation of divine unity, Tawhid. All you ever talk about is the rise and fall of the cost of living, the lifestyles of the rulers and the rich, what so-and-so likes to eat, what so-and-so is wearing, how so-and-so got married, how so-and-so struck it rich and how so-and-so lost his fortune. All this stuff is crazy delusion, an abomination and a torment. You must repent, give up your sins and resort to your Lord and to no one but him. You must remember him and forget about all others. Steady adherence to what I say is a sign of faith, Iman, while running away from it is a sign of hypocrisy, Nifaq. O you who try to discredit me, come over here so that we can rub my condition and yours on the touchstone of the sacred law, Shar. Then, if the true condition of one of us turns out to be merely brass and silver, it will be right and proper for him to be discredited and to go off and die in exile. In the name of Allah, exalted is he, come forward and let yourself be seen. Do not play hide and seek like those effeminate types, Makanith. That is no good at all, it is crazy foolishness and shilly-shallying. Woe unto you, your report will soon come to light. O Allah, relent toward us and do not expose our faults in this world or in the hereafter. O young man, your business has not been built on a proper foundation, so your walls are bound to collapse. Your foundation consists of heretical innovations, bid'ah, and errors, while your structure is made of pretense and hypocrisy, so how can you expect it to stand firm? This has all been constructed by passion, hawa, and natural impulse, tab. You eat, drink, have sexual intercourse and accumulate possessions, all because of the passions and natural inclinations. You have no righteous intention, Naya Siliha, where any of this is concerned. The believer, Mu'min, has a righteous intention under all circumstances. He has a righteous intention in all of his actions. He will neither eat nor drink, neither clothe himself nor marry, except at the command of Allah, almighty and glorious is he, and this applies to both this world and the hereafter. In this world he commands him through the medium of his sacred law, Shar, while in the hereafter he does so directly. The believer looks at this world and notices how quickly it fades away, so he detaches himself from it. He remembers that his allotted shares are coming to him, and he must receive them according to the testimony of the sacred law, Shar, and his heart. So he says, I have no need of this. I do not want it, and his heart runs away to right and left, then he is obliged and compelled to accept them. This is his state in this world. As for his state in the hereafter, he will not open his eye in the presence of the garden of paradise until he meets his Lord. Almighty and glorious is he. If he accepts any part of it, therefore, he will do so only because of a definite command, Amr Hazam, an order Taqaddum, and an instruction, Ashara. Then he will obey the command in fulfillment of the garden's proper due, Haq. He will discharge the rightful due of the dark-eyed damsels, her, and the young servants, and satisfy those desires. In this he will be in conformity with the prophets Anbiya, the messengers Mursalin, the martyrs Shuhada, and the righteous Salihin, moment by moment or at least almost at every moment. In the sight of his Lord, almighty and glorious is he. If you are dutiful toward your Lord, almighty and glorious is he, you will receive happiness from him whatever your circumstances may be. Surely you must have heard him say, whoever is dutiful toward Allah, he prepares a way out for him, and provides for him from sources he could never imagine. 65. 2, 3. This verse ayah of the Quran has locked the door of reliance on material means, asbab, it has locked the door of rich men and kings, and it has opened the door of absolute trust in the Lord, tawakkul. If someone is dutifully devoted to him, he will reward that servant by granting him a relief and a way out of the difficulties that people usually have to suffer. What am I to do with you? How many times do I have to tell you? In the words of the poet, you might make yourself heard if you called to a living soul. But there is no life at all in the one to whom you are calling. Your heart is devoid of Islam, of faith, Iman, and of conviction, Iqn. You have no real experience, Marifa, and no knowledge, Ilm, so you are nothing but fantasy, and talking with you is a waste of time. O hypocrites, you are content to use your tongues for talking about absolute trust in the Creator, while your hearts are making idols of creatures, mushrika bil khalq. My heart is full of fury toward you, out of zeal for the sake of Allah, almighty and glorious is he. You had better hold your tongues and stop trying to compete, or else I may burn down your houses on top of you. O you who keep the salt waters separate from the fresh, keep us separate from causing you displeasure and from protesting to you about your decrees, Octor, let your mercy form an ismus barzik, to keep us separate from sinful disobedience toward you. Ameen. O young man, if you are dutifully devoted to your Lord, almighty and glorious is he, remembering him, affirming his oneness, Mawa'id, and looking to him for guidance before you suffer misfortune, then, when misfortune does befall you, he will say to it, O fire, be coolness and peace for Abraham. 21, 69. O Allah, treat us like this, even if we do not deserve it. Treat us with your generous kindness. Do not demand of us all that we owe. Do not put us out of your sight and do not set yourself against us. Ameen. In the case of one who has real experience, arif, polite behavior, adab, is as much an obligatory duty, farida, is repentance in the case of the servant in trouble. How can he fail to be highly refined, when he is the nearest of all creatures to the Creator? If someone behaved with ignorant discourtesy in the society of kings, his rudeness might well result in his being put to death. Anyone who lacks good manners is despised by creator and creatures alike. Any occasion on which good manners are lacking is an abomination. It is absolutely essential to be well behaved in the company of Allah. Almighty and glorious is He. You must cultivate good behavior. Devote your attention to your life in the hereafter. Turn your interest away from your life in this world, not toward it like the unbelievers, kuffar, who find it so interesting and attractive because they know so little about it. The servant must repent and give up his sins of disobedience, his errors and his mistakes. He must devote himself to fasting, psalm, during the day and to prayer, salat, during the night. He must eat from what he earns, but only that which is obtained by means that are permissible, halal, according to the sacred law, shar. Then, to make further progress, he must become one who practices cautious restraint, mutawari, so he will reduce his profit-making activity for fear of becoming involved in things that are unlawful, haram. Then, as he continues to progress, he will become intensely scrupulous, munatsab. Then he will advance to the point where he becomes a pious abstainer, zahid. Then he will advance even further, to become one who knows from real experience, arif, one whose heart is so needy for Allah. Almighty and glorious is He, that it will sit in His company and engage in conversation with Him. His heart is empty of creatures, able to do without them but sorely in need of Him. It sits in His company together with the spirits, Allah, of His prophets, Anbiya, and His chosen friends, Asfiya, becoming intimately friendly with Him and near to Him. But this is beyond you, and how far beyond you all? Woe unto you! You have no real knowledge of the spiritual states, Allah, so why do you talk about them? You have no real knowledge of the Lord of truth, almighty and glorious is He, so why do you invite other people to come to Him? You are really familiar only with this rich man and this worldly ruler, Sultan. You have experienced neither a messenger, Rasul, nor one who sends forth messengers, Mursal. You do not consume with cautious moderation, wara, you only consume by indulging in something unlawful, haram. It is unlawful to consume worldly things by taking advantage of religion, din. You are a hypocrite, munafiq, an impostor, dajjal, and I am an implacable hater and smasher of hypocrites, one who can drive them out of their minds. My instruments of destruction will demolish the house of this hypocrite and chase away that faith, iman, he claims to possess. The hypocrite has no weapon at his disposal with which he could put up a fight. He does not have a horse to ride, on which he would be able to maneuver to and fro between creatures and the Creator, between the outer, zahir, and the inner, batin, between the material means, sabab, and the originator, musabib, between the law, hukam, and knowledge, ilm. It is with the advent of disasters that a clear picture emerges to reveal the effective influence of faith, iman, the practical result of conviction, iqan, and the force of affirming the oneness, tawhid, of Allah. Almighty and glorious is He, and having absolute trust, tawakkul, and confidence, thiqa, in Him. Faith is the indisputable evidence, bayana, that must be shown in support of a claim. The believers, mu'minin, fear Allah, almighty and glorious is He, with their hearts, and on Him and no other they pin their hopes. Before him and no other they lay down all their needs, resorting to his door and not the door of any other. With all his signs, Ather, how can you fail to recognize your Lord? Almighty and glorious is he. When someone knows all there is to know about this world, he will renounce it, and when someone really knows the hereafter he will see it as having been created, as having been brought into being, Mukawana, after it did not exist, so he will renounce it too, and will attach himself to its creator. Both this world and the hereafter will seem insignificant to the eyes of his heart, while the Lord of truth, almighty and glorious is he, will loom large in the eyes of his innermost being, sir, so he will seek him to the exclusion of all others. Creatures will seem like tiny specks of dust in his hands. He will see them like children at play, when they are playing with the dirt. He will see the ruling kings dethroned and the rich men deluded by their self-conceit. He will see how those who are preoccupied with anything but their Lord are kept out in the dark. I see you playing with the book of Allah, almighty and glorious is he, the sunnah of Allah's messenger, Allah bless him and give him peace, and the words of the righteous, Salahin. You are playing with all this because of your ignorance. If only you would follow the book and the sunnah, you would see something marvelous. The people of the Lord never ceased to bear patiently with him as long as his wishes were being fulfilled, until he eventually granted them what they had been wishing for. To suffer poverty and misfortune with a lack of patience is sheer torment, but when patience is present it is a gracious favor, karama. Even while the believer is being put to the test, he rejoices in the nearness of his Lord, almighty and glorious is he, and in his intimate conversation, munajat, with him, and he feels no desire to get away from his situation. The market of my words is so sluggish because it does not cater to people's lower selves, nufus, and their passions, awiya. This is the end of the age. The market of hypocrisy, suk and nifaq, is set up in business, while I am trying hard to re-establish the religion, din, as it was practiced by our Prophet, may Allah the Exalted bless him and give him peace, and by the companions, as Sahaba, and those who followed them in his footsteps, at Tabi'in. This is the end of the age. As things are now, the object of worship, mabud, for most of you has come to be the dinar, gold coin, and the dirham, silver coin. You have come to be like the people of Moses, peace be upon him. Worship of the calf was made to sink into their hearts. 293 The calf of this era is the dinar and the dirham. Woe unto you! How is it that you go seeking prestige, jah, and wealth from this king, and why do you rely so much on him in matters of importance to you, when he will very soon be either deposed or dead? His wealth, his kingship and his prestige will all disappear and he will be carried to his tomb, to the grave that is the home of darkness, desolation, loneliness, sorrow and sadness, and of the worms. He will pass from dominion, mulk, to destruction, hulk, unless he has to his credit some righteous deed, amal salih, and righteous intention, naya saliha, for the benefit of his fellow creatures, in which case Allah will enfold him in his mercy, rahmah, and make his reckoning right. You must not place your trust in someone who may be deposed or die, for if you do so your hopes will be dashed and your support will be lost. As for the believer, mu'min, his aspiration, himma, rises above the earth, beyond this world and its sons, and even beyond the hereafter and its sons. He has learned that his Lord, Almighty and glorious is He, loves those who set their aspirations high, so his own aspiration soars until it finally reaches him and alights in his presence, where it falls in prostration. Then he does not allow it to rise from prostration, sujud, until the believer makes an appeal with the heart and the innermost being, sir, whereupon he grants them deputyship, niyaha, leadership, riyasa, commanding authority, amara, and control over his creatures. From then on, he lives in this world as a chief, and as a chief in the hereafter, in this world as a king, and as a king in the hereafter. O my people, give thanks to your Lord, Almighty and glorious is He, for His blessings, and do not attribute them to anyone other than Him. Surely you must have heard Him say, and whatever blessing you enjoy, it is from Allah. 1653. You must seek out the poor and give them presents. You must also try hard to ensure that you are not taken in by the cunning trick of some dishonest, sneaky hypocrite, posing as a beggar when he is actually rich, imitating the poor in his public behavior, his pretended weeping and his abject humility. If one of this sort should ask you for something, you must pause for a moment and seek a ruling from your heart. Perhaps he is in fact a rich man pretending to be poor. See what suggests itself to you. Consult your own opinion, even if the legal experts offer you their opinions. The believer, mu'min, is well aware of his fellow creatures. He has ways of reading their signs. His heart is very perceptive, passes. He can see by the light of Allah, Almighty and glorious is He, which He has lodged within his heart. Woe unto you! You are too lazy, so it is certain that nothing will fall into your hand. Your neighbors, your brothers and your close relatives all went off on their travels. They went exploring and digging and they discovered buried treasures. They made a profit of 10 or 20 on the dirham and returned successful, while you were just sitting at home. This trifling amount you have in hand will soon be gone, and after that you will be begging from other people. Woe unto you! You must make serious efforts on the way of the Lord of Truth, Almighty and glorious is He, and not just rely on His destiny, Qadir. You have surely heard Him say, as for those who strive in our cause, we shall guide them to our paths. 29:69. You must make a start, then others will come along to complete the work you have begun. Everything is in the hand of Allah, Almighty and glorious is He, so do not go seeking anything from anyone but Him. Surely you must have heard Him say, and not there is. But with us are the stores thereof, and we send it down only in a known measure. 15:21. This verse, ayah, of the Quran leaves one with nothing more to say. O you who go chasing after the dinar and the dirham, each of them is a thing, and they are both in the hand of Allah Almighty and glorious is He, so do not expect to get them from creatures. Do not try to get them with the tongue of your idolatrous worship, shirk, of creatures and your reliance on material means, asbab. O Allah! O Creator of all creatures, Ya Khaliqul Khalq. O Originator of all material means, Ya Musabibul Asbab. Deliver us from the snare of associating, shirk, your creatures and your material means with you, and give us in this world good, and good in the hereafter, and guard us against the torment of the fire. 201. The Sheikh, may Allah be well pleased with him, also went on to say, O servants of Allah, you are in the abode of divine wisdom, Dar al-Hikmah, so you cannot get by without mediating assistance, wasita. You must ask your master, Mabud, to supply you with a physician who can offer medical treatment for the diseases of your hearts, a therapist who can give you therapy, a guide who can give you guidance and take you by the hand. You must stick close to those who are close to him and who have learned how to behave in his presence, to the guardians, Huja, of his nearness and the keepers of his door. You have been content to serve your own lower selves, Nufus, and to follow your own whims, Allah, and natural tendencies, Tiba. I have a better moral character than any of you, and I am more impertinent than any of you when the interests of the religion, din, of Allah Almighty and glorious is He, are at stake. You must not take instruction from those who indulge their lower selves, groveling for the favor of worldly kings and waiting on them patiently like insignificant specks of dust. They neither tell people to obey His commandments nor order them to observe His prohibitions. If they ever do so, they do it hypocritically and artificially. May Allah cleanse the earth of them and of every hypocrite there is, unless He relents toward them and guides them to His door. I feel jealous rage whenever I hear someone saying, Allah, Allah, while he can see anything other than Him. O you who practice remembrance, Ya Dakir, remember Allah, Almighty and glorious. Is He while you are in His presence? Do not chant His name with your tongue, while your heart is otherwise engaged. Whether a person is hostile toward me or feels affection for me, it makes no difference as far as I am concerned. I no longer have any friend or any foe on the face of the earth. This is in the context of genuinely affirming the divine unity, Tawhid, and regarding creatures as essentially powerless. As for anyone who is dutifully devoted to Allah, Almighty and glorious is He, of course He is my friend, just as anyone who disobeys Him is my enemy. The former is the friend of my faith, Sadiq Amani, while the latter is its enemy. O Allah, make this a reality for me, make it demonstrably true, confirm me in it and make it a gift, not alone. This not something that comes about merely through pretentious claims, ascetic behavior and wishful thinking, through dropping names and titles and wagging one's tongue. It can only come about through honesty, sidq, and sincerity, ikhlas, through giving up pretense, riya, and opposing the lower self, nafs, the passions, hawa, and the devil, shaitan. Be sensible. As far as I can see, you have neither hearts nor any real knowledge, marifa, of the heart. Your lower selves, nufus, are undisciplined and uneducated. They are full of pride and haughty arrogance. On the path of the Lord of truth, Almighty and glorious is He, there is no I, mine, or, belonging with me. The whole of this path is annihilation, ma, and extinction, fana, of the self. At the outset, while faith Iman is still weak, it is La ilaha illallah, there is none worthy of worship except the one Almighty God, but at the end, when faith is strong, it is La ilaha illa anta, there is none worthy of worship except you, because he is now being addressed directly, face to face in his own presence. Anyone who looks to creatures to supply his needs is blind to the door of the Creator. He has neither served him nor sought to befriend him. If only he had served him during his youth, he would have enriched him in his adult life. He gives even to those who fail to serve him, so how could he not give to those who do serve him? As the believer grows older, his faith, Iman, grows stronger and he becomes independent of creatures because of his nearness to the Lord of truth, almighty and glorious is he. He becomes independent of them even if he never had the tiniest thing. Neither a morsel nor a rag to call his own. Sit up and take notice of what I have to say. Do not shrug it off your shoulders. I am really very real indeed. I am speaking from experience and tariba. I can see that most of you are out of touch with reality. You lay claim to Islam, yet you have no idea of its real nature, Achka. Woe unto you. The name of Islam sits upon you, and that is all there is to it. It does you no good. You practice its requirements outwardly, zahiran, not inwardly, batinan. Your practice does not amount to anything. The night of power, Laylatul Qadr, has a distinctive sign that can be recognized by the righteous, Salihin, among the servants of Allah, almighty and glorious is he. For some of them the veil is lifted from their eyes, so they can see the light of the banners that are held in the hands of the angels, the light of their faces, the light of the gates of the heavens and the light of the countenance of the Lord of truth, almighty and glorious is he, because on that night he manifests himself, Yadajala, to the people of the earth. When the servant really knows, Arafa, the Lord of truth, almighty and glorious is he draws his heart completely near, gives him all he has to give, accords him every mark of intimate friendship, and confers upon him every honor. Then, when he has come to take all this for granted, he takes it away from him, reduces him to empty-handed poverty, sends him back to his ordinary self and sets up a screen between himself and his servant. He is testing him to see how he will act, whether he will run away or stand firm. Then, if he stands firm, he removes the obstacles from him and restores him to the situation he had once enjoyed. Al-Junaid, may the mercy of Allah be upon him, never tired of saying, "What do I care about me? The slave and all he possesses belong to his master, Mawla." He had surrendered, Salama, his own self, Nafs, to his Lord, almighty and glorious is he. Having given up his freedom to choose and compete, he was content to be governed by his Lord's destiny, Qadar, for him. His heart was righteous and his lower self had been tamed, so he put into practice the words of his Lord. My protecting friend is Allah, who has revealed the book, and he befriends the righteous. 7. 196. Al-Fudail ibn Iyad, may the mercy of Allah be upon him, would say to Sufyan ath-Thawri whenever he met him, "Come, let us weep over the foreknowledge that Allah, almighty and glorious is. He has about us What an excellent saying this is. These are the words of one who has real experience, Arif, of Allah Almighty and glorious is He, one who has knowledge, Alim, of Him and His ways of operating, Tasarif. What is the foreknowledge of Allah to which He referred? The references to His words. These are bound for the garden of paradise and I do not care, and these are bound for the fire of hell and I do not care. Having mingled the whole of this together as a single statement, he was left wondering which of the two parties he might belong to. The people of the Lord are not dazzled by the appearance of their deeds, because deeds are valued according to the seals that are ultimately fixed upon them. Worldly kings have come to be gods, Aliyah, for many people. This world, riches, good health, power and abilities have all become gods. Woe unto you! You have mistaken the branch for a root, the recipient of nourishment for a provider, the possession for an owner, the poor beggar for someone who is rich, the weakling for someone who is strong, the corpse for a living being. You are quite unworthy of respect, and we shall neither follow you nor accept your doctrine, Mashhab. Far from it. We shall keep well away from you, on the hill of safety, Salama, on the hill of the Sunnah and the renunciation of heretical innovations, Bid'ah, on the hill of the affirmation of divine unity, Tawhid, of sincerity, Ikhlas, of the renunciation of pretense and hypocrisy, of regarding creatures as essentially powerless, weak and subject to coercion. When you glorify the tyrants, Jababira, of this world, its pharaohs, its kings and its men of wealth, and when you forget Allah Almighty and glorious is He, and do not glorify Him, then the verdict, hukam, on you will be the verdict that applies to those who worship idols, Asnam. You cause what you glorify to become your idol. Woe unto you! You must worship the creator of the idols, then the idols will appear contemptible to you. Draw near to Allah Almighty and glorious is He, then creatures will draw near to you. In proportion to your reverence for Allah Almighty and glorious is He, His creatures will revere you. In proportion to your love for Him, His creatures will love you. In proportion to your fear of Him, His creatures will be afraid of you. In proportion to your respect for His commandments and His prohibitions, His creatures will treat you with respect. In proportion to your proximity to Him, His creatures will move close to you. In proportion to your service to Him, His creatures will serve you. Remembering death is a remedy for the diseases ourselves, Nufus, and it is a trainer's staff, Nikmah, over their heads. I have spent many years practicing the frequent remembrance of death, by night and by day. I have prospered through my remembrance of it, and have brought my lower self, nafs, under control through practicing that remembrance. There have been certain nights when I would remember death and would weep from the beginning of the night right through to the early morning, Sahar. During one such a night I was weeping as I said, My God, Allah, I beg you not to let the angel of death, Malakul Maut, take my spirit, Ra, away, but to deal with its removal yourself. Then, although my eyes were closed, I saw an old man with handsome features. As he came in through the door, I said to him, Who are you? And he replied, I am the angel of death. So I said to him, But I have asked Allah, Almighty and glorious is He, to take charge of the removal of my spirit Himself, instead of letting you remove it. Then he said, Why did you ask Him for that? What sin am I guilty of? I am just a servant under orders. I am commanded to go gently with some folk and to handle some folk roughly. He gave me a hug and wept, and I wept with him. Then I woke up and found myself shedding tears. Ahmad ibn Hanbal, may the mercy of Allah the Exalted be upon him, used to say, "Dear to me are hearts that have been scorched by the love of this world, and yet their breasts have compiled more of the Quran than righteous brethren who stand and bow and prostrate themselves in prayer, and who command what is right and fair, maruf, and forbid what is wrong and unfair. They are dear to me because these are the ones whose pious caution, wara, has restrained their hands from worldly acquisition, and whose aspiration, himma, has been the quest for their Lord, almighty and glorious as He. Spend your money on them, for they will have an empire, dala, tomorrow in the presence of Allah, almighty and glorious as He." Someone asked him, "Which is more intense, the fire of fear or the fire of yearning, shak?" To this he replied, "The fire of fear in the case of the seeker, murad, and the fire of yearning in the case of the sought, murad. The former is one thing, and the latter is something else. Which of the two fires do you experience, O questioner? O you who rely on material means, asbab, your benefactor, nafi, is one, and one is he who causes you harm, dar. Your king is one, your sultan is one, and your God, Ilah, is one. You must surely have heard him say, whoever hopes to meet his Lord, him righteous work, and make none sharer in the worship due unto his Lord." 18 to 110. You are your own obstacle between you and your Lord. Get away from you, then you will see him. Someone asked, "How can I get away from I?" So I told him, "Get clear of your own lower self, nafs, by opposing it, struggling against it and turning a deaf ear to its demands. You must not respond to its cravings, its lustful desires and its frivolous inclinations. Then it will become submissive and withdraw from the sight of your heart. It will come to be a discarded lump of flesh without movement. Then the spirit of tranquility, ra'at tumanina, will creep into it. Once the spirit of its being, wujud, has gone out of it, the spirit of tranquility will creep into it. At this stage both it and the heart will see their Lord, almighty and glorious as He. When it has become tame, mutma'ina, and cooperative, muza'ida, a spirit different from the previous spirit will be breathed into it. The spirit of lordship, rububiyah, the spirit of intelligence, aql, the spirit of detachment from creatures, the spirit of being with the Lord of truth, almighty and glorious is He, the spirit of having quiet confidence in Him and shying away from all others. Someone who is sincere, sadiq, in his practice will take his leave of the sheikhs and pass on beyond them. He will signal to them, "Stay there where you are, while I move on to the place you have shown me how to reach." The sheikhs are a doorway. Can it be a good thing to stay put at the door and never enter the house? And Allah coins parables for mankind. 14:25. Have faith in Allah and His Messenger. Believe the words of Allah and what His Messenger has conveyed. The foundation of attainment, wusul, to Allah, almighty and glorious as He, is faith, iman. The foundation of all goodness is faith. Sincerity, ikhlas, is the foundation of prophethood, nubuwah, and prophethood is the foundation of messengership, risala. Sincerity, is also the foundation of the degrees of wali, badal, ghath and qutbi. The end of the discourse.